I'm making a lot of changes. One big change is about the transition to like, I'll throw the background music back on. Yeah, a big change for the show is basically transitioning from just the audio Twitter Spaces being the live component, right? Like the show has grown from just audio starting on Clubhouse, if people remember. And then now we've transitioned to video over the last, since I guess video started in late last year, maybe like November, December, after I guess maybe episode 100 or something. So like now that there's this video component, everybody's also wanted clips and highlights and all that kind of stuff. And so the clips and highlights have been rolling out. That's been great. And so I want to lean into it and I want to kind of go full transition to video because it's so fun. I mean, Twitter Spaces has a little video version thing here. I don't know who can see that, but it's cool, but it's a horrible angle. It doesn't capture what's going on over here. So we'll see what we can do about live video. Lots of priorities. I've been working a ton on the show for the last couple days and weeks on kind of like processes and stuff. So it's going to be good. We're going to be transitioning to video. And one of the reasons why, sorry for the abrupt cut in the music. One of the reasons why is like, I don't have like an intro card like I usually do on the episodes. So I'm going to play the theme music. For those watching the video recording, there's a little treat, but for the Twitter Spaces users, you can just kind of watch my video here. And then we'll dive into the news. We got a lot to talk about. I mean, today we're going to be talking about a great tweet that Hedera put out that got deleted. That happens quite frequently. Aberdeen, Hashpack, Bank Social, Saucer Swap, Dovu, Bonzo Finance. I have it stuck in my head. Bozo. Every time I hear Bonzo Finance, I'm like, wake up, you bozos. Good morning, bozos. So Bonzo Finance, HashPort, Leemon's been making some moves. There's all sorts of crazy stuff like Descent, Wallet. There's a Hedera party happening, maybe open source stuff, the PAC token, all sorts of stuff. We got a lot to talk about today, but let's dive into it. Theme song.
And we're live. You're listening to the Hashgraph Enthusiast Show.
Hosted by Brandon Davenport, aka itsbrandond.
Let's go. Big show. I'm digging it. Lots to talk about. If you can only see what's on the screen right now, it's great. If people listening on Twitter Spaces, it sucks, but it's great. This is why I want to switch to video live streams. And also too, like just on that, I want to do like video to X live streaming, right? Video to YouTube. But I also want to find a way to like not stop doing spaces. I'll find a way to do spaces and live video somehow or whatever. But I promise for the people that dig spaces, we're not going to totally abandon it. But let's dive into it. We got some big stuff. I mean, first off, we're halfway through April. And as people know, a few episodes ago, I shared, some like, I had some insider tips and stuff like that. And we talked about it. And so people have kind of been messaging me like, hey, it's halfway through April. What's going on? I don't know what's going on. I'm hoping that some big stuff is happening. And I mean, it's also worth mentioning that like a lot of unexpected stuff has happened. We had a lot of, geopolitical tensions, and then we had the SEC come after Uniswap, which was like really crazy. There was actually, I have so many stories here. It's crazy. Brady from Bonzo Finance shared a great kind of like tweet responding to this. And I think that it's important to keep in mind, with the Uniswap stuff. I think that so much has happened in the space that like the Uniswap stuff kind of got swept under the rug. But, Brady from Bonzo Finance tweets out or zeets out or whatever we're calling it. Saucer Swap utilizes the Uniswap version 3 code base. Regardless of the network on which this code is operating, the ruling of this case will likely affect all protocols utilizing. The Hedera network is not immune to that. So, it's one of those things to keep in mind. Again, it's what the SEC is doing is kind of insane. Uniswap is just like an open source, development company. So it's kind of crazy, but worth keeping in mind. But hard to keep in mind with everything else going on. Another thing, just from, tweets and stuff like that. This one, actually, I have to go to the Reddit for this one. But something that I kind of, always poke at and point to is a lot of times Hedera will post either really cool posts on Twitter or X, or they'll post something funny or something that also is just random and maybe it's just a word or something. I remember one time they tweeted out I can't remember what it was. It was just one word and it made no sense, but it grabbed people's attention. And so Hedera tweeted out ABFT, right? Asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerant. And everybody lost their minds. Everyone was retweeting it and having fun with it. And I mean, that's a great part of a social media strategy, just throwing fun stuff out there. Got deleted. So I don't know why. It's I don't know what the cause for alarm is. I could see the governing council being we don't get it or something, but I mean, if it's that harmless, it's just literally ABFT. I don't know why tweets like that get deleted. Also too, just ripping through some stories here to kick off the show. This was great to see. So Aberdeen, this isn't really news, but it's just, again, great to see. Aberdeen tweeted out ahead of today's crypto assets conference, that this was yesterday. So yesterday they had the conference, but Duncan Moore, also on the Hedera Governing Council, discusses Aberdeen's ambitions to tokenize assets, an approach which would allow for ownership to be fractionalized, therefore making them accessible to a wider audience. So cool, broad topic. Hedera retweets as a reminder, and I think it really needs to be hammered. But currently, our US dollar, euro, and pound money market funds are available in token form via Arcax exchange. We expect to significantly expand the range of tokenized access to our funds. So these are tokenized on Hedera. When we talk about TVR, total value represented, versus, total value locked, all those different types of things. A lot of people have argued that, there isn't a ton of value tokenized on Hedera. And, I think that we're still kind of getting there from a TVL standpoint, and total value locked is a traditionally DeFi type value KPI. But then you've got TVR, which is total value represented, which is traditional finance stuff. So if you've got billions of dollars in money market funds tokenized on Hedera, that's pretty exciting. It's hard to factor in now because we don't, it's hard to get that information, but very, very cool nonetheless. Also, another great post from the I don't know what to call it now. I used to say Twitterverse or the Twitter sphere or whatever other terms there were. I don't know what to call it now. So this was a tweet. And I love to see this. So Charles, president of Hedera, shares, had an amazing conversation with May at HashPack today. Always awesome to hear directly from the builders and feel solid alignment on the future. So boom, president of Hedera having a meeting with the CEO of HashPack. That's amazing. That's a trend that I'm seeing that's so healthy that I think people have been screaming out for in Hedera is, the top connecting to the bottom, right? Governing council members, board members, the president of Hedera connecting to, and I don't say bottom as in lesser than, more so just illustrating, the hierarchy of the network that's been established. And it's just so great to see those connections happen. And also too, we also saw that Kabila gave a presentation to Leemon and folks from Hedera as well. So, I mean, this kind of stuff just wasn't happening enough in the past. It just wasn't. And now it's happening more, and it's happening visibly. We've got the president of Hedera tweeting it out. So that's super, super important. Another exciting post, and this is also why I want to get this show video stuff, because it'd be so cool to be live streaming. All you folks listening live right now, shout out to HGraph Punks, Renly, Cosmic, Ham Slice, that's the greatest. Patricia, Tata, everybody. It'd be so cool for you to just be seeing my computer screen right now. That's another reason I want to just switch to live video on X. It would be so much fun. So John Wingate from Bank Social shares, Bank Social has got deep collabs going with several Hedera council members to enable the future of finance with member-owned financial institutions. Just thought all my friends would like to know. So again, more kind of rumors, announcement of announcements, these different types of things. It sounds like for whatever reason, you know, a lot of these startups and projects on Hedera and kind of in crypto in general, coming out of their corners a bit, coming out of the woodwork. We're starting to see some of this hype cycle stuff, which I like. You know, I think that you could easily see a post like that and go, oh, is it an announcement of announcement? What is it about? But it's that kind of like, you know, hype energy that's good to see coming into the space. So I'm not opposed to it. I mean, whether you like the project or not, if you got a project that's hyping up, you know, I'd say let's build on that energy. I had John on the show recently too. That was a good convo. Also too, huge shout out to Saucer Swap Labs talking about sharing successes on, what day was this? On April 14th, 2 days ago, they just passed $1 billion in total trade volume. And, you know, for people that don't quite understand kind of the magnitude of that, like there's a momentum there. Saucer Swap is exponentially increasing. And, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, it took, you know, a super long time to get to the first 100 million, a little bit less time to get to the next like 500 million. And then like, it felt like a snap of the finger, we're at $1 billion. So what is it going to look like getting to 2 billion? And these are the types of numbers that start to grab eyeballs in other ecosystems and start to make people go, huh, you know, what's going on over at Hedera? What's going on over at Saucer Swap? Another dub to take note of is Dovu. Dovu tweets out, did you know that Dovu is on Base? And this is another one that's great to see, is like a big pain point in the Hedera ecosystem is listings on centralized exchanges and other, you know, exchanges on other networks to make it easy for people to onboard to Hedera. And one theme that I'm seeing is not only more tokens and more HTS assets getting listed on exchanges and available in other ecosystems, but like we talked about this on the show recently, you know, in the recent weeks, Saucer Swap has made it clear that they're getting ready for not only listing their token on 2 major central exchanges, but also they're putting in the groundwork for other HTS assets to be integrated in those exchanges, right? Like clearing away, you know, all the different stuff in the pathway through the jungle. It's like once you can get sauce on an exchange and integrate that Hedera network, then, you know, sky's the limit at that point. It opens up the pathway for so many other tokens to get listed on these 2 major exchanges that they talk about. Lots of details. I think it's in their Discord in their recent, or not their recent AMA, but I think their last AMA. Jumping over to Bonzo Finance, which is like right in the wheelhouse of what we're talking about. Another thing that the ecosystem's been missing desperately is borrowing and lending, right? When you think about any market, really, you know, you depend on putting money to work, getting access to liquidity, borrowing and lending. Hedera just hasn't had that. So Bonzo Finance, I had them on the show last week. No, not last week, the week before. Had them on the show for a long convo with Brady and Garang, and that was fantastic. Learned a ton. But the news out of Bonzo Finance right now is they've got Jason Fabritz to join Bonzo Finance, and Jason's well known in the Hedera ecosystem. You know, he's a, you know, hardcore dev in the space, understands the network really well. Was at Galaxy, now is at Bonzo Finance. Another theme I'm seeing. We got this like merger and acquisition vibe, people jumping teams, people moving, like that's movement, right? When we talk about the Hedera network and feeling maybe stagnant or ghost chain or whatever, it's like actually what's happening right now is there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of new things coming. And there's a lot of things that we've really needed coming to the network. Like I think Bonzo Finance is going live or is live on testnet already. So they're doing their audits and stuff, and they're supposed to be, you know, live, ready to go this summer. So it's like things are heating up, and they're heating up really, really quickly. And I mean, yeah, it's hard to stay focused and stuff with everything going on, but that's what I'm trying to do. On the DeFi topic, another exciting story is HashPort has received a fourth grant for their infrastructure, and I mean, this is definitely a contentious topic for a lot of people because HashPort is the only bridge for Hedera, right? And what does that mean? Well, a bridge is how someone, let's say on Algorand or Cardano or Solana or whatever, would be able to take those assets that they have and bridge them to the Hedera network to have their, Solana or Ethereum or Bitcoin or whatever on Hedera, and then interact with the Hedera network. Bridges are so important for bringing that outside liquidity into the network. The crazy thing is we only have, one bridge, and it's HashPort, and we've had it this whole time. It would be really great for this ecosystem to have, multiple bridges, of course. And I think that's one thing that's, a side issue. But the other thing is that HashPort needs to be supported. Like if that is our only bridge, the reality is they are generating revenue for this network. They have been, dedicated to this network for a while. So it's good to see them supported. And we need that infrastructure for, this next cycle. And I think that, I think one thing that people are always talking about is we need to add support for Solana. I think the one major ask for HashPort is we need to have support for Solana on HashPort. I think that if there's any network out there that's ripe for having people migrate from that network to Hedera, it's Solana. And not having that support in HashPort, I think, is going to be a big blocker. But also an opportunity if you can, provide a, bridge that has Solana support. I mean, I'm pretty sure the Hedera community would go wild. But shout out to HashPort holding it together. They've been holding it together for years for this ecosystem. So I dig it. A little bit of a throwback vibe here too, just kind of in the rapid fire news here is Leemon was at Harvard. Look at this. This is memories, guys. I wonder if this was the same room he was in, maybe. But for folks that aren't chronically online or haven't been in Hedera forever, one of the most infamous milestones in the history of Hedera is Leemon Baird giving a talk at Harvard. It was the video I watched. It was in 2017, and just as mind blowing. He did it in 2017, and it's just it's cool to kind of see Leemon back at Harvard. His talk this time was around, Hedera for sure, but I think the focus was on DREC. I think that the DREC narrative, the decentralized recovery and decentralized custody product that, open source protocol that Swirls Labs is developing with the DREC Alliance that has, different networks and stuff. I think that that is going to be a big play for Swirls Labs. I've noticed that. We've talked about it on the show at length. I'm not going to talk your ear off about it, but I think DREC is definitely the major focus of Swirls Labs right now. And I think rightfully so, because it does so many different things, right? Fixes a huge problem with blockchain. And it grabs attention for Swirls Labs, for Leemon, right? AKA Hedera. Also, there was Paris Blockchain Week. And this was, or Paris, what is it? Paris? Yeah, Paris Blockchain Week. And this was interesting because, it's not something like super on my radar. And I don't think like from a community standpoint, just because I think it's very like industry, business, that kind of stuff. And to be honest, I've been so busy, I haven't had a chance to keep up with it. But luckily for us, Max Walker Williams, the man, the myth, the legend, was there. And he actually posted he was like a minute 40 video he posted that just gave like a really good kind of like takeaway from Paris Blockchain Week. So let's listen to this real quick. This is a really good kind of overview of Paris Blockchain Week, if you kind of didn't tune into that.
Hi everyone, okay, so that's a wrap. What do I think? I think that in hindsight, actually, I think it is worth Hedera being at events like this because it does garner exposure. I do think they need to start looking at more side events. That's what other chains seem to be doing. Algorand don't have a booth at Paris Blockchain Week. Ethereum don't have a booth at Paris Blockchain Week, but they've got massive communities and they do have side events. I think Hedera should be doing both. I think if it were me, I'd be looking to do a booth in the event, and then I think the real action is in the side events. And the thing about side events is, because they're not at the location, anyone who comes to one has gone out of their way to do so. So you know they're at least slightly interested because they've gone out of their way to get there. And secondly, they're a captive audience. You're the only people they've come to see. You're not competing with other booths. So I do think the side events have got a lot of merit. As always, the Hedera booth, I've got to say the branding is on point, it's very clear. I always try and look at it as if I have no idea what they do. And it becomes quite
That's really it, is like what Max is talking about is the side event stuff. Like, I think that, Hedera is going to get to a point where eventually, and we're going to talk about this a little later in the show, but, where you're going to start to get a little bit of your own gravitational pull. Like when I was at Ethereum Denver earlier this year, there's no Cardano booth, but Charles was walking around Ethereum Denver with like a gravitational pull around him, and then you've got side events and stuff. And I do think that like, those types of events do grab eyeballs. I know that a lot of them are cringe. Like we definitely have seen, our fair share of like really like horrible cringy side events. But the thing is like, you can't, like, those can be done well. They don't have to be like crazy. And like, when you look at the ROI from an event, a booth is very expensive and it serves a purpose, but like a side event is a really, really powerful thing. And I will say that when I went to Hedera's side event at Ethereum Denver with Validation Cloud, like it was great. There was a lot of people there. I ran into Andrew from Tune FM. I ran into Cooper from Aztec, aka Cooper from Galaxy and Hedera, and a bunch of, familiar faces. But then also there was like a bunch of people like just checking out Hedera. And it was like a side event. So it was like all about Hedera. Everyone was chatting about it. It was like this environment. So you got to have both. You got to mix it. But then I like what Max is saying about, especially for an event like Paris Blockchain Week, it's like, what can Hedera do to have those kinds of side events? I think that, you can look at what they did in Davos. Hedera's side event was the main area of the hotel. That was, I think, definitely a good move. Also too, I do want to quickly just touch on, it's on everybody's mind right now, but in Dubai, they've got the high-tech clouds that they've put up there. They put too many up there. So there's a lot of rain, and Only LARPing from Karate Combat shared this clip. And this is the pit. It's flooded. This was a few days ago. He put it to some videos of Queen, but apparently they're draining it out, and they'll be good for, I guess it's like in 3 days or something, 420. So we'll see what happens. But, it's been crazy watching those videos out of Dubai. I don't even want to know what those insurance companies are like that insure like a bazillion Rolls Royces and Lamborghinis that are all driving around underwater right now. Also too, I just want to say, I've got it, but before we jump into kind of a main story, we're going to talk about the new CEO of Swirls Labs and all the kind of confusion around that, and then also all of the kind of cool stuff that comes with, and a look at who that is. I had a really cool moment happen this week. I was literally just hanging out, and it sucks I can't show this on the Twitter stream, but I was just hanging out and I was seeing those memes of like the Lil Yachty coming up on the stage kind of thing. And I remember, people in this ecosystem, especially with kind of, marketing type tendencies that understand that stuff, talking about, joining a conversation rather than changing it. Like, for example, instead of Hedera being like, oh, we're, ABFT and secure and this and that, it's like joining a conversation instead. And I saw that people were using an AI tool to like remix this stuff, and they put like SBF on it, all the different things. And I was like, there's a window of time of like maybe 2 hours before like every crypto person is in this meme. And so it's like, I did the AI thing, and I put Leemon into the the meme, and it was crazy. Like, this stuff works, like if you see a conversation happening that's more broad, it's like sometimes you can just look at X and look at the social media stuff just like a big group chat. And if you open it up and you see stuff happening, that's what people are talking about a lot of times. And it's like, this kind of blew up, and it was cool because, Charles, the president of Hedera, tweeted it out or retweeted it. He was like, haters will say it's AI, but I was holding the camera. I thought that was great. That's the stuff that Hedera's needed that Hedera just has not had. I don't think there was anybody at Hedera who had like the marketing brain power to like put out a witty tweet like that at that level. And to be honest, it's not that doing that kind of like fire from the hip social media stuff is not easy, especially in a position of, being a president of an organization like Hedera. Like, doing that kind of stuff's not easy. So executing on that, that makes me super bullish on Charles, seeing him be able to operate like that and fire from the hip and kind of participate in those conversations. That's something we just literally did not have previously. Like, it felt like there was like a 48-hour process for a tweet to get out from Hedera. And half the people there didn't even know how to use Twitter. Now we've got the president, just throwing out memes. So I think that's great. I don't think people realize how big of a change that is. And then it's almost like it felt like Charles was in the office, and he like leans over through the door like, Leemon, you've got to comment on this thing. And so sure enough, if I scroll down, there's so many replies on this. Where's Leemon's reply? Where is it? Oh, did he delete it? Oh my God. If Leemon deleted it, I don't see his reply on here. Wait a minute. I'm going to search him on Twitter. Hold on. Leemon, where are you? If you deleted your reply, Leemon, I swear. He didn't. Great. Oh my God. I almost had a heart attack. I thought his reply would appear at the front. He tweeted, LOL, that's great. Maybe that happened. That stuff's huge. Like I know it's stupid. Like, it's just like a Twitter meme or whatever, but the people in those types of positions being able to like rapid fire on social media is like, that's something I haven't really seen a ton of from Hedera. So that is a big change. Real quick too. Wanted to give a huge shout out just before we dive into one of our main stories here is, I want to give a huge shout out to all the supporters, all the listeners to the show. Like I was saying before we got started, I'm doing so many changes to the show right now. I've got so much more equipment. Just to put it into context, if you were to flash back to like late November, early December last year, just, 5 months ago or whatever, 4 months ago, I don't know how many months, but it was not like this. It was literally just me with my phone and a pair of little Apple earbuds on here, doing the news like I'm doing now, but way shittier. And that's all it was. And that's all it had been for 2 years. And when I opened up the Hashgraph Enthusiast wallet, people were sending HBAR. Like people, when I was ready to level up the show, people sent, a lot of HBAR, and I sold a lot of HBAR and bought this equipment for the show. And the way that the show's grown just in these last months is just crazy. Like the viewership has, with the addition of clips and highlights, has like skyrocketed and everything like that, YouTube, and there's just a bunch of other stuff I'm doing. So I'm very excited about the show. It's going to make the change to live streaming video on YouTube and X. That's, people really love the live aspect of the show. And it's crazy that the video component is recorded only, right? That you can't tune in live and watch this show, watch my computer screen. And I have 2 cameras now. That's another thing. It's not just one camera. I got 2 cameras. So it's like, you can't see this stuff live, which is crazy. It's still only Twitter Spaces. So YouTube, X, live video, and then I'm going to find a way to keep doing Twitter Spaces. We'll figure it out together, obviously, and it wouldn't be possible without supporters of the show. So really appreciate it. There's no sponsors for the show. There's no ads. The only source of funds that the show gets is just people sending HBAR to a wallet. So just so appreciative of everybody. Now, on to one of our main stories. This is a big one. And I think this is going to end up being bigger than a lot of people realize for a couple reasons. But for me, I think what this is really about is focus. And I think that that's, again, another aspect that the Hedera ecosystem's been missing is we've been through this long period of a lot of experimenting, catching up in a lot of ways, but also like innovating beyond where people are in others. But there's this new element of like focus that's needed. And I think that's been tough when you've got the founders, Leemon and Mance, really being co-CEOs. The amount of like just boring work that you have to do every day that you could spend instead on working on the next big thing is crazy. So I think that there's that need for focus. I think it's felt everywhere. And, I think Swirlds Labs feels it. So they have a new CEO. They've announced that Eric Piscini has been appointed as the new Swirlds Labs CEO. And again, I think this is massive. And what I want to do is just give this a quick read, and then I got 2 quick clips I want to show you. But I think that will kind of put into perspective who this guy is and kind of how he's going to fit into the Hedera ecosystem. So basically, today they announced the promotion of Eric Piscini from COO and CRO to CEO. Hold up, rewind. The fuck did I just say? So COO, Chief Operating Officer, CRO, Chief Revenue Officer, and CEO, obviously, Chief Executive Officer. So this is cool because this guy's been at Swirlds Labs for like 10 months or a year or whatever as Chief Revenue Officer and Chief Operations Officer. Like a CEO is basically the Chief Operating Officer with extra steps, right? It's like having that skill set of being a Chief Operating Officer is really important. And then also the Chief Revenue Officer. What's something that we're always talking about in Hedera is the need for the network to generate revenue. And then also for Swirlds Labs as a company, obviously wanting to generate revenue. So I think that having somebody that's focused, by title previously on, operations and revenue, I think that's really an area that we've wanted to have focus on. So him being CEO is great. And then this is like the part that I think is even more important that I think cannot be lost on people is with this appointment, co-CEO Dr. Leemon Baird takes on the new role of chief scientist, exclusively focused on the technical development of the network and related products and services. Co-CEO Mance Harmon will serve as chairman of the board of Swirlds Labs, focused on strategic projects and company growth. So what this also is, and the best way I can kind of articulate this in my brain, is what this is about is this is Mance and Leemon going back to where they were when Hedera started, right? They're going back to the beginning. They're Leemon and Mance have been on like this crazy adventure, right? They started Swirlds and then they developed a Hashgraph algorithm. Then they turned it into a public network called Hedera. They started working at Hedera. Then Swirlds Labs was created. They moved to Swirlds Labs, and they've just kind of kept moving forward in this trajectory. But there has always been this kind of nostalgia in the ecosystem and community of like, oh, do you remember when Leemon and Mance were just like, talking about the future and dreaming big and all these big things and stuff. And now it's like we don't see them much, or there's, and that's because they've been grinding it out as CEOs, right? At Hedera first and then at Swirlds Labs. And so when you see this stuff like the word focus, right? When you see the words in the sentences like Leemon Baird takes on the new role of chief scientist exclusively focused on technical development, right? Mance Harmon is now going to be focused on strategic projects and company growth. So like, this is where we want these guys, right? Leemon and Mance are very important for this ecosystem, and they're going to be just not bothered anymore as much because that's, they can go off in their corner and go back to what they do best. So I think that's fantastic. So there's some quotes from Leemon, Mance, and Eric, but I think what's best and what I kind of want to do real quick is shift it to kind of like more to Eric Piscini, because this is a guy I think we're going to be talking about quite a bit. Maybe I'll try to get him on the show, but this is a guy that I think a lot of people in the ecosystem that aren't like, again, like hardwired into this ecosystem, but he came from Swirlds Labs, but then like, what's his past? Like, who is this guy? And so he's been in the blockchain space for 10 years at his own startup, but also at IBM and Deloitte. And I know that the name Deloitte comes up here and there in the Hedera ecosystem, and it does yet again. And I think a great way to kind of like illustrate this is when I was researching this, I found this 8-year-old video of Eric Piscini posted by, I imagine during his tenure at Deloitte. And this was posted to the Deloitte YouTube channel. And this is the new Swirlds Labs CEO 8 years ago talking about blockchain and what it can do. And this specifically, what he talks about is very interesting. So let's listen in. Let's watch.
Ledger on a blockchain-based solution. Loyalty and rewards are a great example where blockchain can be applied to change customer behavior. Think about when you go to a plane, when you go to a hotel, when you use your credit card, you get points, but you get points in a few days, maybe a few weeks after the event, after paying or after traveling. With blockchain-based technology, because it's real time, we can consider an environment where you would deliver points right away to your customers, and you would be able to generate a new type of behavior from them. Example, I go to a hotel, I check in, and I don't wait days to get my points. I get points right away, and I can use those points on property to use for food and beverages, to go to the spa and other things. So now as a brand, as an organization, I am able to drive different behaviors from my different customers. And I can deliver those points based on who you are, where you've been, your status, and I can tailor those experiences to you because now I have access to that capability with the blockchain.
So that's, again, 8 years ago, Eric Piscini at Deloitte talking about points, right? Does that ring a bell? Let's flip forward. Let's go forward in time to present day. What are we talking about right now in the Hedera ecosystem? HCS 20 auditable points on the Hedera consensus service. Like, this guy clearly has kind of been on the nose with stuff. And this is, again, him talking about blockchain before Hedera even existed, before Leemon gave his talk at Harvard. So now I want to flip forward to a second clip again. And I think these two clips will kind of illustrate who this guy is. This is a 10-month-old clip now. This is a clip of Eric Piscini in his role at the time as COO and CRO at Swirlds Labs, being interviewed at Consensus by our good pal King Solomon Genfinity, and he interviews him. And let's listen to the question he asks him. And this is kind of, this is a little bit of an older, wiser, and HBAR pilled Piscini, and he's at Swirlds Labs, and he's talking about what's going on with blockchain. So let's listen to this now.
Yeah, 100%. I think last but not least, I would love to hear, and I think the audience would love to hear as well, what are you most excited about? I guess both from your position as Chief Revenue Officer within Swirlds Labs and for the ecosystem as a whole moving into 2023.
Oh, wow. Do we have an hour in front of us? I'm excited about, I would say, 2 or 3 things. So the first one is the evolution of the technology. Right, and direct is a big one to me because I think what I've been struggling with for the last 10 years when I engage with my clients and the ecosystem is how do we bring more people to the ecosystem, right? Yeah. And direct is going to be a game changer because now you can engage in the ecosystem and know that if you lose your private key, you can recover it through a mechanism that Dr. Leemon invented. That is a game-changing thing. So that's number one. I think number two, which is associated with this, is the fact that we have more and more tools on the platform to accelerate the adoption of the platform. And that's really important, especially in the enterprise space, because people hesitate still to build, and if they have the right tools, they're going to build faster. So I'm excited about this from a technology point of view. Having more council members is also very exciting because that validates even more the business model, that decentralizes the business model even more, and that gives more credibility to our ecosystem and all of us. And then the last one is, I think, the community, right? And I'm still new, I'm still discovering the value set of the community and the excitement, but what I've been seeing here is just incredible, right? The energy around the Hedera is different from...
So this was, this was, you know, a 10-month-old video. This was a fresh Eric Piscini in Swirlds Labs. And so it's like those two videos, right? Really like, you know, 8 years apart. You see a guy that's like he's been talking about the same stuff. He's on it. And one thing that was very interesting for me there was like, you can see why he's excited about this network in Swirlds Labs is he says like over all that time, his number one thing that he kept coming up against was, again, that lack of fallback if you lose your keys. And so I think that speaking to the power of DREC and why it's so good for our ecosystem is like it grabs the attention of people like this and they go, oh, this is a breakthrough. And I think it's almost like a side effect. They end up also just in the Hedera ecosystem. So I think that's great. And one thing that I picked out from the announcement was a quote from Eric, and he said something that I thought was interesting. I think that what he said is, quote, "I'm excited to work closely with our entire brilliant team to aggressively advance network innovation and ecosystem development." So there's some very careful wording there. And I think that this to me is coming from someone that's kind of, and again, this video from Genfinity is 10 months old. So I think that over those 10 months, I think this is somebody that really understands the pain points of the ecosystem. And I think this statement is a direct response to it, right? Like what have people been screaming out for, right? We need more tooling. We need this network to be built out. We need, you know, community nodes. We need all this stuff. We need these things. We need to move faster. We need to be more aggressive. Right. And so I see a statement like this from Eric, and he's saying, I'm excited to work closely with the team to aggressively advance specifically network innovation and ecosystem development. Like that's some good stuff. I like the word aggressively. I dig it. And also too, this is, you know, worth bringing up just because I think there can be some confusion for people. Swirlds and Swirlds Labs, two different companies. Two completely different companies. And for context, Leemon and Mance started Swirlds, which developed the Hashgraph consensus algorithm. Leemon and Mance left Swirlds and went to Hedera. And then they left Hedera to a new company called Swirlds Labs. So to be clear, you know, Swirlds Labs doesn't sit on the governing council. Swirlds sits on the governing council. Eric is not the CEO of Swirlds. He's the CEO of Swirlds Labs. So Swirlds Labs has no influence on the governing council at all. It's Swirlds, the other company, that does. So if people were kind of like, oh no, who's this guy? Is he going to vote to, you know, raise the amount of HBAR that can be minted or blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, Swirlds Labs doesn't sit on the council. And you can see it here from Christian Hasker tweets out from Swirlds himself. He says Swirlds Labs is a separate company from Swirlds Inc. and does not have a vote on the council. So there you go. But yeah, excited for the Swirlds Labs CEO, and I think that a good first step for him is like hop on a Spaces or like, you know, dive in, jump in. I think that getting the community behind you is important. We've learned that, you know, there's a lot of success that comes from folks in these types of positions that kind of get the community behind them, because they can be like, that can be really powerful. So I'd recommend that. A good example of someone who's done that, of course, we talk about Charles, the president of Hedera, but, you know, that comes with experience in marketing, being at all sorts of, his track record. He's very experienced. So basically what Charles says, and he said this Monday, tweets out, This is an HBAR vote question. So HBAR vote is a new project with a vote token powered by We the Mouth. So it's very cool. You can use tokens to vote, but the president of Hedera is doing the first one. And he says, in what city should I host the first president sponsored Hedera community party? Now we all know that Hedera community parties are something that everyone would like to do. I have people DM me. They're like, oh, should we do one here? Should we do one there? There's lots of ideas for stuff to happen. So I like this, but I think that there were some valid points on each side that I think are important to highlight. One from HBAR Bull and then one from Tom from Pix5 that I appreciated. And I think that this kind of goes to what Max was saying earlier of like side events. Like Hedera really needs to not just, bring their brand and product into like cross-chain spaces and broader conferences, but like create spaces for themselves. And so there are two ways of looking at this. This comes from the idea of the president of Hedera going, we're going to do a community party somewhere. And so the HBAR Bull says, I love the idea of Hedera party, but would rather save it for when we are winning. So HBAR Bull basically says, Hedera needs to get lean and value HBAR holders. They make everything possible and must be respected for their contribution by builders, the foundations, and Hedera alike. A litmus test for a party would be when HBAR holders don't mind footing the bill for meeting up themselves. So I think that is definitely a counterpoint, is like, when is the right time for a community party, a community meetup? Is it the right time to do it right now? Like, we've got HBAR down in the gutter with everything else. We got lots of problems we got to solve. Where should our focus be, right? That's kind of like the theme here, is like, where should the focus be? And I think that, when you look at this, that's one way of looking at it. Now, let's see what Tom says. Tom disagrees with the HBAR Bull. He says, I think we capture mind share, got that W, and thank the Hedera ecosystem all at the same time. The party needs to coincide with the largest blockchain event of the year. Solana didn't achieve what they did by being a wallflower. We got to go bold, and that's not incentivizing people to hold HBAR. We want builders coming on over because it's a vibrant ecosystem where they can create value for themselves, not passive gains off a gas token. We've got the single most exploitable advantage in all of crypto, a network primed for true Web3 commerce. All the neighbors are sound asleep. It's time to crank up the volume and wake everyone up. A party is exactly what's needed as a catalyst. And that's also a valid point. And I think that those two kind of posts really illustrate the two sides of this. And, I think that it's really important to deliberate a community party. It could be something that turns out like, is it going to turn out to be some kind of like cringe fest that we've been seeing out there? Or is it going to be some kind of blowout type of thing? I think what's most important is making sure everyone's on the same page. And what's the best way to do that? A vote. So, it's like, it's happening like this. I know I harp on Hedera and the foundation and swirls, like all this kind of stuff all the time. But things are changing. The ways in which they go about doing these things are changing. And it's coming right from the top. So how can you work through these things as a community if it's not visible, if it's not public? Like, how can you have these types of conversations? So happy the convos are happening. Happy maybe a party is going to happen. I vote for New York. We'll see what unfolds. I got to give a shout out to, this was fantastic. I have to give a shout out to Tata, who's listening. Probably one of my favorite ratios I've ever seen on social media. This is great. So check this out. Well, I say check this out, but no one on Spaces can see anything, but soon. So someone tweets out, Solana is insane. More transactions than all major blockchains combined in Q1. I'm sure all of you have seen this tweet. It's like a little bar chart. It's got all the networks. And of course, you've got like, Base and Aptos and Ethereum and Polygon and Tron and Near and blah, blah, blah. They've all got their little bar graphs. And then boom, Solana, big bar graph. And it's like, I'm not going to dunk on people for, hyping their network. That's fine. And I know, and the thing is it's like, if you're going to be putting out statistics, you probably should be complete with those statistics. You probably shouldn't be like inaccurate through omission, because the reality is like, this doesn't really represent the whole crypto ecosystem and the possibilities out there. If someone's interested in a network doing a ton of transactions, we all know the network they should check out. Well, Tata, so this first tweet, 238 likes. Not bad. I mean, this is a sizable effort. Tata responds, "Are you sure?" And adds Hedera to the chart with this like giant bar, 308 likes. And to me, if you talk about KPIs or ways in which we can gauge that this community is growing and becoming more powerful, and that the brand of Hedera and all these different things that we want, a great way to realize, like, are they happening is ratios like this. Like, it's, when you see this kind of stuff happen, it's so great. And it feels to me sometimes I'm most excited and most informed by the dumbest things. And a lot of times it's just a post on Twitter or whatever, but narrative is so important in Web3. And I can't stress enough, like, sometimes it's all of these initiatives boil down to like, just post the tweet. Like, there's so much power in that. So shout out to Tata. I dig it. Descent. And again, appreciate everyone listening. We're up on the first hour here. We got some more stories to go. Like I said, we got no time for guests. We got no time for anything. There's so much updates this week. It's crazy. Descent wallets out of nowhere. Bazonga. What if there was a solution that allowed you to regain control even without your phone, right? And Descent Wallet is a hardware wallet. Decentralized recovery, DREC, is transforming digital asset recovery by decentralizing the process with secret splitting, trusted helpers, recovery on demand, and key reassembly. So it's like tagging, all the different stuff. So we've got all of these different, key players in the Web3 space, hardware wallets, other L1s, folks like Bank Social, like all these different things, Algorand, right? It's like, they're all part of the DREC Alliance, and it's starting to all kind of come together. And it's great to see the conversations about this, because when I read conversations about stuff that's DREC related, it's like, oh, this, what about Solana? What about Cardano? Why do you, and what's great about DREC is it's literally just a protocol. It doesn't need Hedera. It doesn't matter. So it's this, like, if you want to talk about onboarding, it's like this great onboarding to Web3. Cool to see Descent hopping on. Now I want to jump into something, and I mean, usually at the top of the show, like I said, I usually announce the date and the episode number. It's episode 121. Does TPS matter? It is April 17th. Forgot to do it because, again, all my stuff's everywhere. I'm upgrading so many things. But does TPS matter, right? Like, that was the thing, is I was thinking about that. And there was kind of a part of my brain that's on this track, right? It's this Hedera part of my brain that's always looking at the TPS number. It's excited. Something happens in my brain. It's like, oh, 50 billion transactions. That's, exciting. It does, as a HBAR barian, maybe I'm wired that way. So just naturally, as anyone does, I post a poll to X, and I said, will Hedera hit 50 billion transactions before the end of April? And interestingly, 73.1% of people say yes, 26.9% say no, 167 votes. And a lot of the comments were like, I don't really care about transactions. I don't really care about this stuff. And, I was sitting there and I was like, I don't even care about this stuff anymore. Like what is it? We're just counting transactions from Atma.io. That's all it is. And I mean, to be fair, it's like, if any other network could process, 1,500 subsidized transactions per second, they would. That's one thing. So, I mean, it's not like the Atma.io use case is worthless. It's literally showing that this network is performant. So that's another thing. But, it was one thing to celebrate 10 billion and stuff like that. I think it was really important, but at a certain time, you kind of have to go, what actually contributes to the goals that we have as an ecosystem, right? The goals we have as an ecosystem right now, right, are getting more users, getting more liquidity, getting more infrastructure, and just, increasing the price of HBAR. Like, it doesn't matter which way you cut it. It's like, that's what everyone's trying to work towards. The appreciation of the price of HBAR de-risks the whole ecosystem. So there's these things we're working towards. And for a very long time, really the trick that Hedera had in its bag was TPS. It was very fast. It could process a bazillion transactions. Great. But we got more tricks in our bag now. We literally just talked about Saucer Swap having processed $1 billion in transactions. Like, it's those types of things that you start to realize, like, what numbers should we be celebrating, And I think that my mind as an HBARbarian is changing as this network grows and expands. I think back to the first bull market, and those were the talking points that we had. Now we've got so many more talking points. I really think it's time to find that new focus, right? That's really the theme of the show, is like, what is that metric? What is that thing that we can show to people that speaks to the success of the network? I don't think that's TPS. I don't think it's TPS. I mean, it's so like, you can't, I don't want to like detract from the importance of the TPS component. Like, it's so important that Hedera is processing the amount of transactions that it is right now, because it shows proof in the technology. And, most likely we're going to have more of those use cases going live. But the reality is that there's so many other exciting things happening that, actually grab the attention in different ways of other folks on other ecosystems and other players. And it's like, we got meme coins, we've got NFTs, we've got ordinals, right? We got hashnals, we've got cross-chain compatible recursion, we've got borrowing and lending coming. We've got all these things happening, and those things translate to numbers, and those are new numbers. Those are fresh numbers. And I think those are numbers that people really enjoy on other ecosystems. And so I'd encourage any kind of OG HBARbarian out there that, when they make their coffee in the morning and they load up hederatransactions.com and they see the ticker, right? I'd encourage them to kind of like go hunt out what are those other numbers that they want to watch. Maybe they don't participate in DeFi or whatever, but there are some exciting numbers that are appearing on Hedera. It's no longer the situation of TPS is the only thing we have. Like, we have, you could argue we have some much more compelling numbers than transactions right now, that are, I feel, far more relevant to the rest of crypto. And again, it's all about joining that conversation, right? And there's so many different things that Hedera can speak to right now that fit that conversation. So I'm excited for 50 billion transactions. I think it'll be cool. But again, it's just for one project. It's not really for Hedera. It's for @my.io, and it's not really generating that much revenue for the network. But one thing that's interesting is the math at the current rate. The math doesn't really show, I don't think, Hedera hitting 50 billion transactions by the end of April, if you extrapolate on the recent 2-week activity or whatever. And seeing 73% of people say that it will, it's like, I don't think it's impossible. I think it would be kind of cool, but again, we'll have to see. But transactions, I don't know. Maybe, if folks want to comment what they feel about transactions, go ahead. But I don't know. For me, it's not about like getting less excited about that stuff. It's just realizing that there's just so much more to be excited about. And this is something that that kind of goes into our next story that I think is very interesting. X, Elon Musk, the battle against AI and all those types of things. Elon Musk is talking about users being required to pay a very small fee to use the platform. And I think there's a lot of like uproar about that. There's not a lot of clarity. I think that, you know, people are like, oh, are you going to have to pay for every time you like a post, or what does this mean? And I think really what this is all about is social media platforms like X and Facebook and all that kind of stuff, LinkedIn, they're going to have a real problem with AI, because AI is just becoming so much more advanced. And really, like, if it appears as though like one of the only ways to combat it is have users connect their credit card to, never mind even making a payment, just connect and verify a credit card to their account, goes a long way to thwart against artificial intelligence, because, you know, it creates a barrier. And then on top of it, if you add the need to, you know, make a 50 cent or dollar payment, it just adds a huge barrier. So I think this, you know, in the Web 2 social media world, I think this is probably, like, sadly, this is probably one of the best options they have. You know, like when you really think about it, if, you know, if I was running X and there's like a massive problem with AI spam and all those kinds of things, I'd be like, you know, what do we do? Do we combat it with AI? You know, it's like, it's because of how advanced this stuff gets and how much more advanced it's going to get. You have to look at other alternatives. And so what I described is an alternative that obviously Elon Musk is looking at, and how I see it kind of being implemented is like, you know, hey, connect your credit card and pay, you know, $5 to authenticate your account for the next, you know, 6 months or whatever. It's like, it could be something like that small that just verifies that user is a human that exists, that has the capability to own a credit card and make a payment. That like has a drastic de-risking effect on, you know, your social media platform being overtaken by artificial intelligence sock puppets. But it's like, so stupid. Like, I don't know how people are going to respond to this. And this just kind of brings us to like Web 2 versus Web 3. You know, when you really think about that, you start to look at X and you go, where does blockchain fit into this? Right. And you start to think like, yeah, what if you did micropayments or something like that? And naturally your brain goes the next step to Hedera and stuff like that. And so I'm starting to see all of these different pain points popping up, and it's so freaky how Leemon would talk about this stuff, but it's very clear that, you know, I think Leemon is very, you know, steeped in game theory, but also, you know, it's like this stuff's going to play out, and Web 2 social media, like if this is like Elon Musk being the kind of like bleeding edge CEO, founder, you know, innovator, the Tesla of our time. I mean, if this is the best solution to like the world's town hall, well, like, what a load of crap. You know what I mean? Like, that just sucks. There's got to be something better. There is something better. It's just a matter of time, right? It's just all about, it's just requiring these platforms to change. We're witnessing the painful birth of Web3 social media, creator economy. We see it with Galaxy. We see it with, you know, a lot of other different initiatives we see on Hedera, and then on other networks too. And like, we've seen all the different Web3 social media platforms and different things. It's like, some of them are just not successful. Some of them are dumb. Some of them, you know, value the wrong things or whatever, but it's clear that it's happening, that they're gaining traction. And this to me is kind of like, just not cool. I don't know who is going to be down for this. It's just going to be very weird. It's going to be interesting to see how this rolls out, to be honest. And I think it could coincide with like Elon talking about how he wants to make crypto available on X and stuff like that. So that could be also cool. Imagine connecting like a Bitcoin wallet or a Solana wallet or a Hedera wallet to X and paying a small fee to confirm that you are a person and get through filters and stuff. Like, you could see how this kind of works. You know, people talk about Web 2.5. I want to talk, let me see here. I'm going to skip gonna rearrange this stuff here because I want to talk about some stuff. And I see Pluto listening. Pluto, if you want to jump up, feel free to request to speak. But I'm going to talk about Pack Token. And I mean, you know, what I did was I went through the white paper, read through it, and essentially like just wanted to just give people like a quick summary of what it's about. Because I think that with some of these token launches and some of these different things happening, I think it's so hard for people to keep up with everything. So I know Pack Token is, you know, going to be a major one for people. It's, you know, HashPack is a major project in the ecosystem. So I think that it's going to grab a lot of eyeballs. And white papers are, especially for people that don't know a ton about this stuff, sometimes it's difficult to understand what's going on. So we'll talk it through here really quickly. But first, I had a question from a listener about what happened with the INO glitches, and HashPack did a really great postmortem on it. Go read it. But essentially, you know, there was the initial NFT offering where people were minting the concierge collectibles, which were these cool like little roller bag 3D object kind of things, and you know, they were going to do the mint, and there was these glitches and stuff, and people weren't able to get it and all those kinds of things. And essentially, it was just something that happens all the time in the technology space. It's you have a major launch, and just before the launch, something isn't quite right, and you have to kind of switch to a backup plan, and you don't really have time to look through a ton of stuff. You have to stay on track, and you know, you hit bumps in the road that are unexpected. And in HashPack's case, it was, you know, we talk about mirror nodes and how they hold the data of the network, and the consensus nodes write data to the network. And so all the information, like what your balance is or how many NFTs are left or all these different types of things, have to be read from a mirror node. And HashPack, right before they were about to do their big moment, they had to switch to a backup provider, and the backup provider had limits on how much information they could get, and they didn't know. And so that's basically what happened. There was no issue with the network. There was no issue with HashPack. There was no problem with anything. It was just in the moment, scrambling, trying to figure it out. It happens literally every day in the technology startup space. It is what it is. This is what's called moving fast and breaking things. And it takes that to scale a network. And you have to do those kinds of things. You have to move fast. So what's most important is how HashPack kind of dealt with it. And I mean, like I said, they published a full postmortem. They were like right away, like, hey, we messed up. It was an oversight on our end in the heat of the moment with stuff. And it's totally normal, you know. And I think that what makes it different in Web3 is, you know, it is NFTs. People are spending, you know, money for tokenized objects and stuff. So I think that can definitely raise, you know, tensions and stuff around that. But to me, it's like, just do the best you can as a project. And if you mess up, it's all about how you deal with it. And I think that HashPack dealt with it well. The INO was okay. And now we've got the white paper, and the Pack token is going to be distributed and launching this month. And, you know, we're moving forward with stuff. I think that net all in, I think was very positive. I think it was great. And I think that, you know, for the, you know, listeners asking me about that, it's like, it's being an early adopter. It means that you definitely take on risk, and you're going to use stuff that kind of, you know, breaks sometimes or a lot of the time. And it's worth remembering that, you know, in you know, previous events like this and previous mints, you know, HashPack itself broke, or Launchpads broke, or something broke. And the next time it doesn't, you fix it, you move on. This one, everything was stable and fine. It was just a little error, you know, as oversight. So overall, I'm seeing these mints and all these different major events that have these surges in network traffic. They're getting smoother and smoother, right? They're not getting worse and worse. It's getting better and better. And it's just not going to be perfect. That's just the nature of these things. You're an early adopter. So HashPack, Pack token, Pack back rewards. Reading through this white paper, I think I lost 12 brain cells with all of the words and stuff. But what I came out with was just a really cool new asset and mechanism to make Hedera more exciting to use from the leading wallet in the ecosystem. Like, that's great news. So what is it? So, and this is from the white paper. This is my, summary from the white paper. Go read the full white paper. Don't take my word for it. Not financial advice. Eat balanced breakfast and make sure you're getting enough water. Drink some water. So Pack token. This is the official utility token for HashPack. And it's designed to incentivize usage for in-wallet redemptions. That's off the bat. So the use cases right now for Pack token are rewards, right? Which are going to be earned by using services, like in-wallet swaps and different stuff like that. Purchases within the app for items that you can buy with Pack token. Community engagement, right? So Pack token is going to be mapped out to different projects and using it for different things, right? It's just a token out there on the network. The most important thing is, I think, will be governance. It's very interesting to see a lot of these projects transition from just like the kind of like standard dictatorship startup to more community owned, which is totally new and fresh in Web3. So I think that that's going to be very interesting. And then of course they have more stuff plans to be determined. But also the main question is kind of like why, right? Like, why Pack token? Why do this? I think for a lot of people, seeing the announcement about a Pack token from HashPack, it was like, whoa, what's going on? Why do we need this? So again, the goal being here is initially to incentivize the exploration and engagement of DeFi, right? We're seeing the success with Saucer Swap. We're seeing what happens when, retail is empowered on this network. This network grows. Like, I'm going to be blunt here. It's safe to say that Saucer Swap makes just as much money or more money than Hedera. I don't care what people say. There are startups on Hedera that will be, $1 billion, $10 billion companies. And it's because their founding teams are like incredible. Like, some of these teams that we have on Hedera are like top tier, incredible. The same type of quality you would find with startups right now in the AI space or whatever. These are teams that would totally be plucked up by Y Combinator or something. But for some reason, they're crazy enough to just kind of stay in Hedera and do this kind of stuff. And, we're lucky to have them. And so I think that with that reality, it's like, what can we do to incentivize, people using this network? And I think that a big theme this year is DeFi. That's what Pack token is for. It's good to see HashPack kind of going like, you know what, we'll throw in with this and we'll help drive this engine that's, it's not like we're waiting to see what happens with DeFi. No, it's like, it's real. It's happening right now. It's making a lot of people money. So it's fantastic. Christian Charles just tweeted something. It was a retweet. I thought it was some kind of breaking news. The other thing too is they've got all these like NFT collections out there, the concierge collectibles. Then they've got like the gold backpacks or whatever, and then they've got like collaborations and all sorts of different things. So they've got a tokenized community, right? That's one key thing that you want to have in this ecosystem. Like, someone brought up to me the other day, I was talking to someone about my new position at Hgraph, and it's like, oh, what's your exit strategy, or what's this? And it's like, an exit strategy these days, it's like, you don't even know what it looks like. I think that an exit strategy can just happen all the time. Like, I don't think an exit strategy is kind of like an event anymore. Like, an exit strategy, I think, is just a function of a startup. And I see HashPack, starting their exit strategy now. I'm seeing Kabila starting their exit strategy now. I'm seeing Citadel Wallet starting their exit strategy now. And it's not an exit strategy. It's slowly giving control of the project to the community. Like, that's when people talk in the corporate world about an exit strategy. Like, that's what they talk about, is giving up control, right? And getting rewarded for it. So HashPack getting rewarded for giving up, control of their project, and similar to a bunch of projects out there, like, that's what this stuff looks like. And it's great. So when we look at, governance and different things like that, that's what this is about. This is about being able to decide on what's happening with these projects when they launch their tokens. So, and again, we're still pretty fresh to it, and we still kind of need platforms on Hedera to facilitate it, but that's what Web3 looks like. It's exciting. There's a bunch of other stuff they're doing. So the strategic timing of this for the PAC token planned for this month. And we're going to kind of see what's going on. And I think that, this month we're going to have some PAC token in our wallets and be off to the races. And the next question is like, okay, right out the gate, what do we do with PAC token? If you're not going to be getting any airdropped, how do you start getting some? So the first aspect of this is kind of like what they're calling the PAC back rewards, which again, I think it's hilarious. So PAC back rewards are for users using in-wallet swap functions with PAC tokens. And basically how the math works out is the swap fees are 1% of the transacted volume. So if you're in HashPack and you're doing a swap, 1% of those fees. 0.3% of that goes to Saucer Swap, 0.7 goes to HashPack. So the PAC back rewards is calculated from the 0.7% of the HashPack fee given back to the user in a swap. So basically, if you're going to swap like 1,000 HBAR, that would incur a 7 HBAR fee. The user receives 1.75 HBAR worth in PAC token based on the 25% reward rate at launch. So that's, the math doesn't really matter. Basically, the mechanism is like if you're doing DeFi token swaps in HashPack, you'll earn PAC token. That's what this is about. It's like use the wallet, use the products in the ecosystem and earn the token, right? And I think that this is a mechanism that a lot of projects are doing or going to be doing that I think is cool. I think it's great. Now, so this is going to apply to swaps, but they're going to be adding it to secure trade and their store. So there's, really it's just in-wallet swaps for now, but more coming. And, I think that when you look at this kind of reward system, it can be applied to all sorts of different areas. So it's pretty cool. It's automatic as well. Just use the service. And again, this is about targeting DeFi newcomers with incentives, right? A lot of people, the first way in which they kind of enter this ecosystem when they want to use it is they get a wallet. And if that wallet that they get has cool things for them to do and has its own token and a way to earn rewards, like I can guarantee you they're going to be highly more likely to use the network if that were not the case. So I think that this is not only kind of removing barriers, but it's not just about removing barriers. It's about what's at the party once you get inside. And I think this kind of, pumps up the jams a little bit. Now, there's the store component. So this is another aspect of the white paper. So the HashPack store is going to introduce exclusive purchases for PAC token, right? So you're going to have items in the HashPack store that you'll only be able to purchase in PAC token, obvious, but again, kind of cool. Now, that is really kind of what's going to emphasize this as like a loyalty, reward token. Here, let me see. I got a note from Patricia here from CentX. Let me see here. Check this out. So Patricia just sent this. If you see this in time, we have CentX since last year. Yeah, this is very similar, right, to the CentX token. Each one HBAR spent at CentX, the buyer and seller both get 0.002 CentX. Same thing for mints and rewards. So again, great note, Patricia, right? Like this is a proven tried and true mechanism that works. And I think the exciting thing is it's just getting closer and closer to the users. I think it's great. So the governance aspect of PAC token, this is the one, again, that's really important. This is going to give people the ability to influence the project and, kind of like change the direction of HashPack based on voting. And I think that a lot of projects are doing this, and, this is going to be great to see coming to HashPack. So you're going to be able to vote. And I imagine this functionality is going to be coming soon. And the purpose of this, right, is wallet features developed from community suggestions, right? And so this is something already that HashPack and a bunch of other projects do, and really any great startup does, is listen to your initial users and build for the things that they need and help them complete the tasks they need to complete. And as you grow, you need to create more ways to be able to do those things without literally needing to talk to people all day. And in Web3, it's so great because it removes so many of those barriers. People can literally put their money where their mouth is. People can vote. We talk about in the Web2 world, like, vote with your wallet. If you don't like something, just don't buy it. And it's like, now we have a new option. It's like, well, if you don't like something, you can literally vote with your wallet. You can literally influence the way that something is built. So that's pretty cool. And also, the interesting component here is the concierge collection holders. They're going to receive an additional voting weight. So if you hold those kind of rolly bag collectibles, you're going to have an extra weight in the votes. And it's going to evolve, right? The topics of voting will probably be like feature prioritization, dApp listings, themes, community-driven stuff. So I think that's going to be the governance of HashPack, and it's going to develop. That's very rudimentary. It's very similar to like every other project out there, like Dovu and stuff. But again, this is a sign of growth. So tokenomics. So the Pack token, 1 billion supply max, 200 million is going to be circulating at Genesis, right? So 200 million basically Genesis day one. Boom, there you go. So of that 200 million, where's that going? So the liquidity, we're going to see 20 million Pack token put into the Saucer Swap liquidity pool. And then the community is going to get 160 million Pack token. And these are for the NFT holders. And we'll break that down in a minute here. But anyone who holds those specified NFT collections, those are the people that are going to be airdropped the Pack token, of which, there's going to be, or has been snapshots. There's been a few snapshots, but snip, snap. We got some Pack token on the way this month. Now, there's also going to be 6 million set aside for marketing, 6 million set aside for operations, and 8 million set aside for core development, which will be managed by HashPack. So they're going to get some Pack token. I mean, HashPack needs some Pack token, of course. They're going to be busy. Now, when we look at the long-term investing allocation, it's, high level. And again, if you want to really take a deep dive, go into the white paper, but basically community treasury will have 510 million Pack. The marketing, operations, and core development will have 100 million, 100 million, and 270 million Pack respectively. So you've got the short term, the Genesis, the airdrop, you've got the long term, and then you've got the actual kind of, so how does this launch? How does this actually start taking off? And so NFT collections allocations were discovered in an undisclosed pre-snapshot to prevent speculation. So basically they took the snapshot of all that kind of stuff and then told people. So sometimes if you announce you're doing a snapshot, people can, be moving stuff around and everything. So this was like a little quick snapshot. I'm pretty sure it's already locked in. And then the vesting begins just before the Pack launch. So that's where everything kind of like gets settled in to the long-term vesting allocation. And then any surplus from unclaimed Pack goes to the community initiatives, and the vesting contract IDs and treasury IDs are going to be provided after they're created. So probably late April or potentially early May, we're going to have those contract IDs. And then it's just kind of set, right? 200 million Pack initial Genesis launch, 800 million Pack going into the long-term vesting allocation. The numbers are in the white paper, gave you a bit of a breakdown. So that kind of makes sense. When you really boil it down, it's relatively simple when you get it at a high level like that. And then the launch itself. So the token generation event marks the circulation of Pack token on exchanges with allocations for earlier supporters and liquidity pool creation. So that's like this Genesis event of creating this Pack token. And a really important part of this and having it on Saucer Swap is moving it through the Sentinel process on Headstarter. Headstarter has like this Sentinel platform that essentially like, you know, runs it through the gamut of different ways in which an asset needs to be de-risked. Like, and there's all sorts, I think there's like dozens of different data points, and you can go on the Headstarter Sentinel stuff, but the PAC token will go through that process. So it's going to have that base due diligence done that every other token has on Saucer Swap. So that's great. And then the token launch steps are initiating with a DAO vote on Saucer Swap for inclusion of the PAC token. So going through the regular formal process, there's like a vote in the Saucer Swap Discord, and all those kinds of things. And then, so the liquidity pool will be set up. Then there'll be a final snapshot of token holders to determine the Genesis PAC distribution. And then launch day, liquidity is established via an HBAR and PAC LP tokens. 160 million PAC tokens are then airdropped to the community. So that's basically, it's like this tight sequence of events for the launch of this, which is, you know, get it on the exchanges, get the liquidity pool there, get all that approved, get the airdrop out to the holders, and just have this roll out. So I imagine that when we hit the pedal to the metal, it's going to happen pretty quickly, because HashPack is making it very clear in this white paper that although they want to move fast, they really want to get their ducks in a row and really line things up. There's a great expression for this that I use a lot of times, which is like, if I were tasked with, taking my gun or bow and arrow and pointing it at a target, how close can you get to the target, right? How much work can you put in to get as close to the target as possible? So you're like so close, when you fire, you get a bullseye. And that's the kind of sense that I get from HashPack, is like, they really kind of want to line things up and then move quick. So I'd say for everybody, keep your ear to the ground, and there isn't like a ton to do. I mean, you kind of just sit around and chill and snapshots, and you'll get your airdrop and stuff. So, I mean, all there really is to do until then is like maybe check out secondary marketplaces and get some more collectibles or something or whatever. But until that snapshot, then after, it's like just chilling. Now, the other thing they talk about in the white paper is a centralized exchange listing. And that should be an obvious objective of an initiative like this. So liquidity for marketing and operations is used pre-launch for a centralized exchange listing. And that's going to be important to widen the availability. And then they've got like, when they say post-launch, this is like once the dust settles and people have a minute to like, sleep and stuff like that. I imagine this is going to be pretty hectic. They're going to be focusing, of course, right away. They should be, CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap. You got to get that stuff on there. And then they're going to have a Saucer Swap version 2 pool and farm and all sorts of different things. So that'll be good to see. And yeah, the launch date, there is no launch date yet. It's only set for kind of April. So it'll happen at some point in the next 2 weeks. Could happen next week. Who knows? But coming up very soon. So I think that this is really exciting, and I'd encourage anyone to go read the full white paper. And, the collectibles are the concierges, the special collection, which is like, those golden backpacks, their themes, the Hedera Monkey collab. They've got their golden coin. There's like an old donation receipt NFT as well. If you're an OG, you got one of those. So it's like, there's these different collectibles out there. And they're all in the white paper, it says like how many PAC tokens each gets, all those different types of things. Keep that in mind if you're going on secondary markets, but also keep in mind that snapshot date. I think the most important thing people should be that are interested in the PAC token is watch for snapshots, keep an eye on things, whether they're going to give you a heads up or not. Don't be throwing HBAR around on a secondary marketplace. If the snapshot's already been done. Don't do it. But that's the PAC token. I'm excited for it. I just want to give people a bit of a breakdown. Not financial advice, yada, yada, yada. I've got my concierge collectibles packed, and we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. But, I think that in general, pulling back a little bit, shout out to HashPack. We talk about projects doing real things for the network right now. And have been doing that stuff for the network for years. HashPack is one of those projects that this ecosystem has just required, and we do require them. They're the heroes of the ecosystem. And then pulling back even further, the wallet ecosystem within itself, as this network grows, the wallet ecosystem is just starting to get more diverse. All sorts of different participants trying different things. So I think it's, amazing. So yeah, all good stuff. I think this is all good stuff. The only bad thing could happen if I can't even think. It's so funny. I was like, what worse could happen? It's like, I can't even really think of anything right now other than being on the precipice of a bull market and having things bottom out. But what I can think of that's amazing is, again, supporters of the show. We're almost through. I just have a couple more stories to talk about. Appreciate everyone listening. Shout out to everyone listening. We got what's this? We got 007 Space Monkey listening. Shout out. We got HBAR News. We got Lone Wolf. We got some XRP people. We've got Hashinals listening. We've got Paul. Shout out. We got Cosmic. Good to see you. We got Grelf. How you doing in your stump? I saw you got your webcam working. That's fantastic. We talked to Warlock yesterday. Maybe we'll have Grelf on the show at some point in the future. Not today, though. We're too busy. Not today, Grelf. So, yeah, if you want to support the show, send HBAR to a wallet. The wallet address is on hashgraph.news, and then I will sell that HBAR and buy things for the show. I appreciate you. Hedera has joined. So let me rewind this a little bit. So, and I have to be careful about what I say because there's some things I can say, some things I can't say. So a really important element of developing in Web3 as an L1 is open source, obviously, because, so many initiatives for projects require open source tooling and all sorts of different things like that. And there are different, open source foundations you can join. There's all sorts of different ones. One of them is the Linux Foundation. And what this basically means is it's very similar to what we see with all sorts of other groups that Hedera has become a part of. Is it's aligning with other stakeholders, it's information sharing, and also it's, it sounds stupid, but it is important to have, your logo in certain places. It literally just is. And the Linux Foundation is really, an important aspect of that. And I think that what Andrew Akins is doing as the chief open source officer at Hedera, I had a chance to bump into him in Denver and have a conversation with him. Hedera is not messing around. Hedera is going to be doing some really crazy open source stuff. And sorry, I got to fix my microphone here. Hold on. There we go. And seeing this gets me excited. So what is this all about? So the Open Source Security Foundation is a cross-industry initiative of the Linux Foundation. And so the Open Source Security Foundation is a global cross-industry initiative of the Linux Foundation that focuses on sustainably securing open source software. And this was the announcement, right? So the Open Source Security Foundation welcomes new general members, Adalogics, the Boeing Company, Chainloop, Defense Unicorns, Insignia, Hedera, and Step Security. There's 120 members as a part of this organization. And this is really what the focus is it's security and open source software. And again, I don't want to dive into it. I don't know what I can talk about, but I know that with my conversations with Andrew Akins and all that different type of stuff, security is such an important aspect of open source software right now, especially with AI and then also with Web3, with immutable logic on networks and all those different things. It's so important. And it's great to see Hedera at this table. And one thing that I did was I was like, well, who are the members of this thing? Who are the other logos on this page? And there's some interesting names. Again, there's 120 members. I'm not going to list 120 members, but I wanted to call out a few members, a part of this, open source security foundation. That again, this is the Linux Foundation. This is as big as it gets for open source. And what we see here there are members like Apple, AWS, Microsoft, Coinbase. So, okay. So we got some heavy hitters there, obviously, but we also have governing council members there, right? We've got Google on there. We've got Dell Technologies. We've got Boeing, right? That obviously was just announced with this batch, and Hitachi. Hitachi is on here too. But one entity that's also on here is DTCC is on here, right? And we talked about DTCC, last episode in the context of some of these rumors that are swirling around. So it's very interesting to see DTCC on here as well. And just those, again, I know it's dumb to talk about logos on a web page, but it means something to people. It's just a fact. That's the way it is. Also too, just really quick, and we are getting to the end of the show here, guys. So I really appreciate everyone hanging on. I'm a little bit all over the map today because I got so many new things for the show that I'm learning. All these buttons. I've made the decision too. I know I complain on the show a lot about like having so many more buttons to push and so many more things to do. I'm actually going to be purchasing more buttons. Don't know if that's the right thing to do, but I will be doing that. So maybe the solution for buttons is actually purchasing more buttons to click. I don't know. But I want to say huge shout out to Dany Eid on X, a legendary community member, left for a bit. I was bummed because honestly, I would use his Twitter threads and stuff for the show. He just does really great stuff. What Dany does is he's able to take information from different places, different people, different times, sometimes years apart, and piece together a narrative that actually leads to some kind of conclusion and like piece together a story. Like Dany's so important for our ecosystem because he's a connector of information in a very kind of like nuanced way. Something that most people can't do. I can't even do. I don't know how he does it, but basically what Dany's able to do through these Twitter threads that he does is take bits of information and present it as a whole. And what would be just random bits of info is actually just a part of a story that leads you to some kind of conclusion. So I think that Dany is so important in this ecosystem. I want to just quickly shout him out and just highlight a thread that he did on Sealcoin, which we've talked about on the show previously with WiseKey. And I went on a deep dive rabbit hole with that. So go listen to that episode. But Dany did his thread on this, and he hit on something that I think just needs to be hit on again. Just because, this Sealcoin stuff and WiseKey and, Wise Art and like the WiseKey is this company that like is also launching satellites. They do a lot of Internet of Things stuff. And essentially what they're doing in Dany's 12th tweet, he says, he's quoting a YouTube video presentation that actually had someone from the HBAR Foundation on it, but they say, we're launching a token that we call Sealcoin. So it's a machine-to-machine payment token. So as we provide semiconductors that we embed into objects, the vision of the future is that these objects are going to pay themselves. So this is something that I was able to kind of allude to on the episode I was talking about. But again, because Dany can kind of take so many of these pieces of info and blend it together, that's really what this distills down to is WiseKey with Sealcoin and the different partners they're working with. We're talking about a company that can develop, these semiconductors for different applications, let's say, again, launching satellites in space. They can develop this hardware and they can make it so these chips can essentially have their own wallet, and these machines based on whatever logic or whatever kind of programming or contract are able to transact with each other autonomously and actually not just like when you think about this, right? It's not just machines exchanging information. It's actually machines exchanging value through those APIs. So that is crazy to me. So if you're interested in semiconductors and chips being able to transact essentially, you know, like cryptocurrency by themselves, go check out Dany's thread. It's going to be in the show notes. And it's happening on Hedera, folks. So that's a use case I'm going to keep my mind on. Let me see if there's anything else we want to talk about. You know what? I will share this, you know, just for the last bit of the show here. Before I share my final thoughts, there was this clip that I shared on X that I've always found incredibly useful, and I kind of forgot about it, and then I saw it, and I was like, "Oh, this is a huge conversation in the space right now," and this is something for anybody in the Web3 space or in Hedera that's looking for, like, you know, VC funding, or you're getting to that stage in your startup or your company where you're like, oh, I want to raise money, or I want to go to outside investors, or I want to raise my seed round, or I want to, whatever it is, or maybe down the road, you know, your series A or B or whatever. It's like, what do those even mean? What does raising money even mean? And this is a 2-minute clip, or like a 2-minute, 20-second clip that I think anybody should watch that feels like they would ever be in a position where they need to raise money for their project, because this is Anderson Horowitz, or not A16Z. This is Mark Anderson, but who's the other guy? I can't remember the other guys. But anyways, similar to Y Combinator, A16Z. This is Mark Anderson, and basically, he's like a juggernaut, a legend in Silicon Valley when it comes to investing and stuff and raising money. But this way about doing it is the best way I've heard someone describe raising money. And I think that, again, for anybody looking to do that in the Hedera ecosystem right now, take this advice. This is the model to use when you're raising money. So check this out. Let's listen in on this short little clip.
But I think the single biggest thing entrepreneurs are missing, both on fundraising and how they run their companies, is the relationship between risk and cash. So the relationship between risk and raising cash, and then the relationship with risk and spending cash. So I've always been a fan of something that Andy Ratcliffe taught me years ago, which he calls it the onion theory of risk, which basically is, you can think about a startup like on day one as having every conceivable kind of risk, right? And you can basically just make a list of the risks. And so you've got, you know, founding team risk. You know, are the founders going to be able to work together? Do you have the right founders? You're going to have product risk. You know, can you build a product? You'll have technical risk, right? Which is maybe you need a machine learning breakthrough or something to make it work. Are you going to be able to do that? You'll have, you know, launch risk. Will the launch go well? You'll have, you know, market acceptance risk. You'll have revenue risk. A big risk you get into in a lot of businesses that have a sales force is, can you actually sell the product for enough money to actually pay for the cost of sale? So you have cost of sale risk. If you're a consumer product, you'll have viral growth risk. Well, you get the thing of viral growth. And so a startup at the very beginning is basically just this long list of risks, right? And then the way that I always think about running a startup is also the way I think about raising money, which is it's a process of peeling away layers of risk as you go, right? And so you raise seed money in order to peel away the first 2 or 3 risks, right? The founding team risk, the product risk, maybe the initial launch risk. You raise the A round to peel away the next level of product risk. Maybe you peel away some recruiting risk because you get your full engineering team built. Maybe you peel away some customer risk because you get your first 5 beta customers, right? And so basically the way to think about it is you're peeling away risk as you go. You're peeling away risk by achieving milestones. And then as you achieve milestones, you're both making progress in your business and you're justifying raising more capital, right? And so you come in and you pitch somebody like us and you say you're raising a B round. You know, the best way to do that with us is you say, okay, I raised a seed round, I achieved these milestones, I eliminated these risks. I raised the A round, I achieved these milestones, I eliminated these risks. Now I'm going to raise a B round. Here are my milestones, here are my risks. And then by the time I go to raise a seed round, here's the state that I'll be in. And then you calibrate the amount of money that you raise and spend to the risks that you're pulling out of the business. And I go through all this, in a sense this sounds kind of obvious, but I go through all this because it's a systematic way to think about how the money gets raised and deployed, as compared to so much of what's happening, especially these days, which is just, oh my God, let me go raise as much money as I can, let me go build the fancy offices, let me go hire as many people as I can, and just kind of hope for the best.
Yeah, that was like mic drop moment for me listening to that, and I just kind of had to share it with the community. Is like that's the best way to look at it is, and this can be applied also too to like, tokens or INOs or whatever. It's like a great way to go through these rounds of asking money from investors is just literally communicating like what milestones are, when we, a great example is let's say you have a project where maybe you did an INO and you're going to then be doing maybe like another INO, or you're going to be doing some other mechanism to raise funds from the ecosystem. If you can communicate like, here were the risks and milestones that we wanted to achieve through this first INO that we did, and here's the results, then you can just kind of go, okay, and now from this round, what we want to do is we want to achieve these milestones and eliminate these risks. And I think sometimes we focus too much on milestones. Like we say, oh, with this money, we're going to be able to do this, 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 and this. It's also about here are some risks in our company or in our project that we're going to be able to eliminate by doing that. And I think that's one thing I think that is left out a lot of times is I see so many of these projects talk about all the things they're going to do and talk about all the milestones that they have. And then, give me some money. But the missing piece is also kind of saying like, here are some risks in our company that this is going to allow us to get rid of and eliminate. And that's also so valuable and so powerful in keeping people informed. And like, those are a lot of times traditionally, those are things you would just talk about more privately with investors, but it starts to get me thinking more about this Web3 world of like, well, can companies truly be more transparent? Can they truly bring people in more? Can we, and it's like, I think maybe we can. Like, can a company in the process of doing an INO say, our company has a risk that we haven't secured an in-house engineering team, and this will allow us to do that. It says to people like, hey, we're going to solve a problem together. So anyways, it was just a good aside, traditional advice. I'm just kind of brainstorming about how it could be done for Web3, but good advice nonetheless. Wow. So we talked about a lot this week. And I think there's a lot of big topics. And I think that, again, the takeaway for me, this show is focus. Like I was saying at the top, like we really need to find that focus going into this next cycle here. And I think the good news is that everybody kind of agrees on that. I think we're all searching for what's the thing we can all get behind. What's the mission we can all get behind? We're seeing the HBAR Foundation, they want to do a DAO. They're actually going to be doing a Spaces later today. I think later today at 3 Eastern or something. I think I'm going to be tuning into it. Anyways, like you've got that, you've got all these, I'm seeing people at Hedera, at Swirlds, at the foundation, at the Hashgraph Association. And I'm seeing this need for focus being addressed, and it's great. And I think that that's something that is happening in the community, kind of in the retail community, the builder community, the hacker community. It's happening from the top to the bottom. And I think that's really what it is for me, is like, it's about focus. And then I think about myself, and kind of all the different projects I'm working on, all the different initiatives that I'm a part of, in the ecosystem. And then also, my role as communications director and at Hgraph, providing all this data people need. I really think about my own focus. And I think that, that's something, that I think if we can carry that into this next cycle, finding that focus for ourselves and as a community and as an ecosystem, it means that, everybody wants to take a giant leap, right? Everybody wants to make a big leap. They want to have the big moment. They want to have the big breakthrough. And that's fine, but it's rare and it's really hard to do, and it probably won't happen, right? If you think that you're going to do some kind of big giant leap and invent the next Hashgraph or something or whatever, it's like probably not going to happen. But if a whole ecosystem takes a tiny little step together, like that's huge. And I don't think that we've seen this network or ecosystem be able to kind of do that consistently. We've had moments where that's happened, But seeing barriers get broken down, seeing people getting closer together, seeing conversations surface more, it's messy. Sometimes it's not fun. We've talked about that on the show too. But I think that what we're starting to see is, instead of everybody trying to attempt to take big leaps all over the place, we're starting to realize that it's actually very effective to start taking little steps all together and focusing on the things that actually do the things that we need, right? Like generating revenue for the network, bringing more liquidity into the ecosystem, bringing more people into the ecosystem, building out this infrastructure, all these different types of things. It's like TPS. Okay, cool. Enterprise adoption. Great. What are the things we're actually talking about that are moving towards our goals? I'm starting to see that a bit. I'm not going to, this is another episode, where I'm sitting here going like, what are we doing? I've been doing that for a while, and it's like, good news is I think people are doing that. And not a moment too soon, but not a moment too late either. I think we're going to be okay. Like, I know that people get spooked out, but the reality is like everybody's freaking out right now. And what's that old saying? Something greed, something fear. I don't know. But with that, appreciate everybody tuning in. I'm just scrolling through the spaces now. Like I said, the show is going to be making its transition from just Twitter Spaces live to like full video live streams. So hopefully very soon you'll be tuning into the show on X or on YouTube, and you'll be seeing all my cameras and computer screens and stuff. I love spaces. I'm probably going to start asking people, how important is the spaces for everybody? If it's very important for people who listen to the show live, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that we keep doing spaces for as long as possible. But if people are like, spaces, who cares? If I can tune into the show with video on X, then like, that'd be way better. I'm not even going to bother with the spaces, then so be it. So I really want to, like we're talking about, I want to see what people need. I want to see how the show can be better. And quick shout out too, on April 26th, the Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, I'm going to be doing a panel for the HBAR Foundry about HIP 920. I'm going to have, who are my guests? Let me load up my notes here. Who are my guests? We're going to be talking about music NFTs on Hedera, onboarding the music industry, and HIP 920 and all that good stuff. I'm going to see if I can find who are going to be my guests. My guests will be Patches from Turtle Moon, of course. Andrew from Tune FM. Tyler from Hashpack, Pluto, Milan, everyone knows Milan, Hedera Dev, and Vicente from Vicizi. These are people that have worked on HIP 920 and have been tirelessly trying to figure out how we can onboard music to Hedera. So we're going to have a big convo about it live on the HBAR Foundry on April 26th, Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern. So make sure to tune into that. It'll be a good one, a good combo. And with that, play me out. Glad people are enjoying the highlights. Lots of people are watching the highlights. Glad people enjoyed the Leemon meme. It's got a bazillion views. It's probably the best thing that I've maybe ever done, maybe ever will do. I don't know. We'll see if I can top it. It's not like I didn't make another one. I will say, I can't confirm or deny if I made another Leemon meme. But with that, hello future, goodbye past.
Thanks for listening to the Hashgraph Enthusiast Show, hosted by Brandon Davenport.
Listen to past episodes and support the show at itsbrandond.com/HBAR.